We're parents, teachers, and educators, and like you, we're passionate about restoring our culture for Christ. This is Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education.
Hello again. You are joining us for another episode of Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education. Today we have with us Lucas. And Lucas, it's been a long time since I've said your last name. I'm going to ask you to help me.
Sobczak. The
Sobczak.
C is CH, yeah.
Yep, Sobczak. Lucas is with us as a VSA, Veritas Scholars Academy alum who is currently in college, but I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about himself. So maybe how we got connected, but starting with really how long and what got you connected at VSA and when you graduated, that sort of thing.
So I first heard about VSA through a friend of mine. We had done classical conversation, and we kind of knew that whole classical education side from like the co-op stuff. And then he told us about VSA, specifically about Omnibus, because at the time and still I absolutely love history, politics, and reading and everything. So it's basically an omnibus. And so he told me about it. And funny enough, he told me about primary and secondary. I'm like, no, I want to do primary. I just want the best, not knowing about primary sources and secondary sources. That's kind of what it meant. So I did omnibus primary first every year with Mr. Piper. And that was an awesome class. Definitely threw me in the deep end with just the amount of reading. I don't think I've read so many pages per day in my life. And so that was a big shock, but definitely worth it. Read some of my favorite books like Herodotus, and a couple others, but yes, that's how I got started. And then that year I did Omni 1 with FLVS, Florida Virtual School, which is kind of like a online public school system here in Florida.
Florida Virtual is one of the oldest online schools and one of the earliest public schools online.
Yeah, no, it did serve its purpose, especially for like the way I got to know about it was through a soccer school. So we'd play soccer in the morning and I do FLVS kind of in the afternoon. So after Omni 1 and then FLVS, I went full time with Veritas, probably 8th grade, and then went through high school, did the diploma program, and then graduated 2022. That's kind of the short version, I guess, if you want me to go into any details on that.
Well, I'll ask you some questions. So, where are you now?
So I'm a sophomore at Liberty University, studying finance and minoring in real estate.
Okay. So you you finished with VSA and went on to Liberty. You're in your sophomore year. Tell us, as you got into being a full-time student at Veritas, what were the things that you liked? What were the things you didn't like?
Honestly, I'm just gonna say I liked Omnibus. That's probably just the best thing for me about it. It's coming from my interest. So that was definitely something I absolutely loved. I really enjoyed the professors. Mr. Harhoff, that's a classic. Mr. Piper, Mr. Shearer, Mr. Turnbull. There's mostly the omnibus professors. No offense to the math professors. That wasn't my forte. But that was something I really enjoyed. I also enjoyed the community, which, funny enough, there is community on an online high school. But it took me a couple of years, probably junior year, was when I kind of got into it, to kind of get adjusted to kind of the online environment in terms of the social aspect. And I'm not saying that the social and kind of in-person interactions are the thing or not, but I had in-person kind of interactions through soccer. I played for 15 years ish, maybe more.
Okay. Are
Um,
you
so
playing at
that
Liberty?
No, I tore my hamstring freshman year of high school, so
Okay.
that put me out. I'm playing intramurals, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not, is it?
Yeah. But no, I think that I also enjoyed the social aspect. Um, and then there really wasn't coming from homeschooling through most of my life. I didn't really have that like high school experience in terms of the interactions. I mean, I was always pretty social, but I enjoyed the whole school education. So to me, I wasn't really missing much. I mean, I still had friends through soccer, through church, through other activities. So that wasn't a big aspect to me as it might be to someone else. So really starting there wasn't that many cons. There were just a lot of pros.
Yeah. The uh, through this process, we got connected more than I generally get connected with students. Tell our listeners how you and I got connected.
So that first interaction I actually had in Mr. Detweiler was at my first EOIG end of year gathering in Lancaster. You photobombed a picture my brother and I were taking at the graduation ceremony. So that was the first ever interaction I had with you. And then I guess the first proper introduction I think was at my graduation after the ceremony. Uh, I kind of went up to you and started talking about my pastor who you met through C12.
Yeah. Yeah, you
And
and I were at a meeting. C12, for the people that don't know, is Christian CEOs getting together on a monthly basis, roughly 12 of them, to go through some curriculum and discuss various topics. And he and I ended up seated next to each other when I was a visiting member of an Orlando, Florida-based group.
yeah, he took me to a meeting, and as a aspiring business leader, hopefully, it was amazing to see the Christian environment, but like the straight like no business, like no sugarcoating business environment with like a Christian spin on it. That was just really cool to see firsthand. And then I introduced myself. We're talking about my pastor. I think I mentioned my senior thesis, if I'm not mistaken. And then we had a call after that, several calls after that.
Yeah.
But that was like the first really real introduction.
Yeah. Well, what was enjoyable to me too, and resonated with you, is that you were interested in the real estate investment field, which was my career area before Veritas became a thing and caused me to really change careers. So talk to us a little bit about your plans after college.
So plans after college kind of go in reverse. I know what I want to do end goal. Getting there is the problem.
Okay.
Year by year, I'm kind of sorting that out. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a wealth management or an accountant or a financial advisor, but I think I've steered more toward real estate as more of a central kind of vehicle, and that was through my freshman year of college. Just some experiences and some clubs I was involved in steered me towards real estate. Not because I don't like stock, but because I just realized like my real passion is real estate.
Okay.
So you connected me with um, I'm blanking on his last name, but
Adam Michelson.
um, Adam Michelson, yes. So you put me in touch with him, and we connected. I believe it was actually right beginning of school year, right before I left. I think everything was packed this side of the camera. And so we spoke, and he said to get together during winter break, and I'm meeting him on the 4th in January
Oh,
to talk about,
wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
to talk about the internship. And then one of the things I do want to do, which is actually something you told me about, was the CPIM, which the more I do research about it, and I've asked people like Adam and people at my school at Liberty, they're like, yeah, that's something you should definitely do,
Yeah.
especially going into commercial real estate.
Yeah. Well, what was fun for me was to be able to introduce you to Adam. I actually knew his father, who was the founder of this real estate investment firm in Orlando, and Adam is now the son that's running things. And it was fun for me to be able to introduce you to them, and have to say very little about you, knowing that you were perfectly capable of carrying your own introduction and selling yourself, so to speak. And it very quickly turned into they were interested in having you join them in an internship. And it sounds to me like a discussion is going to happen in the next few weeks about what that might look like. And so maybe it hasn't shaped up much yet. But my encouragement and my ability to make that connection for you was really encouraged by what I knew you were capable of, from how you've comported, how you've presented yourself in our interactions, and from what I've known candidly about the education that you've gotten. And you really have been able to communicate well to win them very quickly in that, and that's really fun to see. What do you think maybe in your education was key to being able to help them believe that as an intern you were a good use of their time?
So it's funny you mentioned that. I was just telling my mom, there's something Liberty does starting, I think it was last year, the first time they did it. It's called the CEO Summit, and they bring in hundreds of CEOs, mostly Christian CEOs from large companies, small companies. And I was able to sit down with someone who was involved in commercial real estate based in Central Virginia. And he was asking me what my strengths are. And I said, just seeing patterns, being able to connect dots. And I think that was something I always kind of enjoyed, just kind of being able to talk a lot about many different things and being able to connect certain aspects to from one interest to another interest. And I think again, Omnibus really helped me connect those things, whether it's reading ancient political thought to modern literature. If you're talking about dystopian, recent literature, 1984 Animal Farm, and just being able to connect books from different millennias and being able to connect those and see different perspectives. Yes, you may not be able to apply Jane Austen to real estate, but you kind of have some background and the instinct, I guess, to connect very different ideas together. And that's something I love doing. And probably, I can't speak for them, but I think that's what my strength is, and at least that I try to put out, is being able to see kind of big picture, but being able to kind of get into the details and find details that I can pull out.
So how this is this is an intriguing thing to pursue, but how does an interest in the great books connect to a career desire in real estate? How do you see that connecting? I know you're thoughtful. I know you've given that some thought, but I think that it isn't as immediately known to people how that might be. Talk to us about it.
So the process of academia that I've taken, I guess maybe you can say that, has been from a very early age in history, just reading a ton of history books, needing to put them on a map. So you get into geography, learning about geopolitics, learning about politics, and a joke that I heard is that you never see a poor politician. So obviously, then leading into business. So I guess in that sense, you can go from history to business. But then if you look at great books, I think there is there's always an aspect of um, there's always like a drive behind certain things, and a lot of times it's money, but I think it's also value. So if you look at um, like a great book that I read, it's about Bitcoin, but he talks about the time value of money.
Mhm.
So if a society has a low time value of money, they're going to be drawn to things that are very quick and easy, and not, thinking long term. And so when you have a high time value of money, you're able to invest, invest into the stock market, your 401k, whatever that may be. But then you also invest into, long-term projects, whether it's a large cathedral or a large, detailed painting. So if you look at these values from history, majority of them have high time value, uh, a high value of time, I should say. So when you read those, you kind of get the understanding of, yeah, time is valuable over the long term. So kind of the roundabout answer would be seeing the value of time through time, I think is a way to see it, to look at business, where you kind of have um, that that time is precious.
Interesting. So if I can paraphrase that, you see the enduring works, and they're not only that the ideas have stood the test of time, but that there's a conversation about the idea of thinking in broader, longer term categories, and real estate naturally connects to that as a durable asset, as an asset that, from a pure calculation standpoint, the investment value of an investment piece of real estate is calculated over years, not typically weeks or months, as some things are. And so all of those things kind of conspire together. Is that a fair assessment? Fair summary?
Yeah, I think the best way to sum it up is I'm reading Atlas Shrugged right now from Ayn Rand, and I'm at a point in the book where the thought leaders of the world are talking, and it's a bunch of absolute nonsense. There's someone who's saying that books should not sell more than 10,000 copies, and that men are illogical, worthless creatures. And so you see very low time value in that. And so they're saying, oh, the past is nonsense. The past is, illogical. They didn't value true human nature. Um, but that's what got them to the present. So I think when you look at that, is like, if you don't respect the human, value, you're going to get worthless junk. But if you do, like in the great books where they put so much effort into a book, um, and then you get that value over time, which you invest now in real estate, hopefully it appreciates over time.
Yeah, yeah. It's this isn't where I was going to go, and I don't want to put you on the spot uh, in a bad way, but you've gone to a university that champions, in some sense, as I understand it, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but champions a bit, Jesus may come back today, but is certainly coming back soon. So the long term may not matter. How would you address that? Is that a fair assessment of where you go to college?
I would say I would say no.
Good.
I would say that I can definitely see where some of the extreme, charismatic evangelical gospel can show that, but I definitely don't think that, in my perspective as a student there, that they talk about that. I think they talk about, especially coming from School of Business, they talk about investing now, being good stewards of your time and
Yeah.
your value on yeah.
So it, at least within the business school, maybe it's the School of Management. I don't know what they call it there. They vary a little bit from college to college. But you see them valuing long-term consideration.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a standard of quality at Liberty that, um, there was Jerry Prevost Sr. who started the school. I think I never heard him speak, but there's a lot of
Very
people talking
Falwell.
about that. Jerry Falwell, yeah, not Jerry Prevost. That was the other president. There's a lot of Jerrys at Liberty. Um,
Easy to confuse.
yeah. So he was talking always about doing things right, and they play a lot of videos of him through campus and through their education. And he was always talking about doing things right, doing things for the long term, kind of establishing, a great school to train champions for Christ. That their motto.
Okay.
So I very much think that the school as a whole is long term thinking.
Interesting. Let me change the subject here for a moment. I'm so, well, in bringing closure to this, I'm so excited to have been able to introduce you and look to an internship possibility. And I can't tell you how much it is a joy to me to be able to help our students that way beyond high school, like what might happen here, and really could help you a good bit as you consider career possibilities. So that's been fun for me too. I don't think that you're the only one being blessed by that. I am as well. It's really fun to be able to do that. But I'd like to hear you talk a little bit now as a college student, and how well prepared you were from the education you got at VSA.
So I would say that I was not well prepared because, in a very specific sense, that VSA has you write very, very complex, deep thinking essays, um, and from a very broad prompt. And so going to Liberty, it can be very hard sometimes to write an essay that requires very few words, a lot of sources, and a very hyper specific prompt.
Well,
So
that's interesting. Okay.
yeah, so yeah, so overall, I think VSA prepared me very well. But I think in terms of the writing style is very different. So to me, that was a challenge adjusting to that shift. Um, but as a whole, I very much think that VSA prepared me well for the college life. It was a lot of time management, which every VSA will know that you need to manage your reading or the amount of math questions you need to do each day to keep up with homework. And there's that aspect of it which kind of came naturally as a VSA student. And there's almost a sense that it's just very different. It's a culture shock, really, I'd say. But being able to adjust to that quickly, I think, would be a lot easier than maybe a public schooler coming to the classical education. It's very different. And I didn't find it as much of a challenge as I thought it would be, but it was still a challenge. I'll just say that.
Okay. What might you recommend to us to help your preparation for what you have experienced? In other words, what might we have done differently to make you more ready? Was it as simple as I have to learn to write in a certain way that I didn't practice much in school, or is it more complicated than that?
No, although I said a joke about being able to write differently, but being able to write the way VSA teaches you, does help you to write that very hyper specific,
Okay.
every word counts. Like if you need to write, a 200-word paragraph about Christian worldview using 5 sources, a little exaggeration. You know,
That would be tough.
yeah. So maybe 3 sources would be more accurate, but um, being able to write from VSA is, every word you need to be very thoughtful of. You have a very limited amount of words. So in that sense, the writing style does help. You just need to kind of tweak certain things. Um, the only thing I could honestly think of is maybe not even the college itself, but just the college prep. Um, because going into college, I felt fine. It made me that in between of, where you're applying to and things like that. Um, because I mean, this is just a personal thing. Like I never thought I was going to go to Christian college, but that's how it landed up, and I honestly wouldn't change it. But um, the college prep perhaps could, I don't know. It's very very unique to the person.
Yeah. Say that again. Very easy to what?
Very unique to for each person.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Very good. Do you expect after college to jump right into a real estate investment career?
That's the plan.
That's
Yeah,
the plan?
that's the plan. Unless things very much change, or I change my major, which I've already changed it way too many times. But yeah,
Well, that's exciting. I know it's fun for me to talk not only to you as a VSA graduate, where we have a lot of knowledge in common about what your education was, but what's really been fun for me over the couple of years that we've known each other is to hear you talk about your plans, both knowing where you want to go, but also knowing that they could change. Very few young men in your position are as certain about what they plan to do, which helps in providing direction, or as ready to accept the fact that God may take you in a different direction, or even your interests may change and take you in a different direction. And I find that balance very refreshing. And I expect, if I knew that we would have lots and lots of students like you in that regard, who are really prepared to meet the challenges of life after high school, and of course, life after college as well. Lucas, thank you so much for joining us. Anything you want to say in closing?
For all the students listening, don't let senioritis hit you too hard. For all the parents listening, I guess just VSA isn't omnibus, but I think that omnibus is so essential to everything. Where you talk about Pythagoras in math, you can relate that to Aristotle. So I think VSA, people can replicate VSA, but people can't replicate omnibus, I think. And so I think that would be my last
That's
words.
great. Well, thank you so much, folks. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education. Take care.